Thanks for checking out another clip of the Cashflow Contractor. We'd love to have you as a part of our audience. Click subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
So I think what would be helpful, I want to talk about how a company can get acquired. I don't know if you have a ideal client story or a transaction that's happened that would really fit this, but I'd love to kind of walk through, okay, I own a company. I'm looking to sell. I'm looking to get acquired. Where do I start? What is a PE firm looking for that's actually going to drive value for them that I can, focus on in my strategy for my company? So is there a company that we can kind of take through this entire process, or maybe we can just pick and choose from different cases?
Yeah, no. So that's a really good question. So it really kind of comes down to kind of that. And again, I don't want to borrow for book titles, but the entrepreneur mindset, or kind of the business owner mindset of like, all right, kind of taking a step back, looking in the mirror, and be like, all right, I've grown this from let's just say 0 to 10 million. I mean, there's different kind of like I would call it like kind of tranches in the cycle of a business. There's kind of the 0 to a million, which is hey, I'm especially kind of if we back into the contractor, right? Start up, I could kind of do my own thing, maybe hire one guy that I could work with me, and we could probably generate, have a good skilled craftsman, probably $0 to $1 million, relatively, with some marketing and some word of mouth and the community. I could probably kind of grow that business from 0 to 1, right? Well, going from 1 to 5, that requires hiring additional people, taking yourself out of the truck into the day, into the office, and building that business, right? So that's 1 to 5. When you go from 5 to 10, that's another type of a lift, because you're going to need to bring in, kind of probably to Martin's point where he'll talk, is you need to bring in somebody that understand that you can trust, managing your financials, running your books, doing scheduling, doing dispatching, doing sales. Now you're starting to kind of build those pieces. And,
Yeah.
from 10 million to 100 million, I mean, that's another type of a skill set, that requires, that type of leadership and those types of skills. Now you're further and further removed from the truck and the trade and the product and the service or the invention. And so, kind of taking a step back and being like, everybody kind of sees all this stuff, you're like, all right, well, I scaled my business to $200 million of revenue in whatever time frame. Well, there's a lot of blocking and tackling and a lot of work and a lot of networking and a lot of aligning yourself with the right people, to do that. And you're really kind of taking an honest step back and saying, all right, do I have those skills to, kind of take it to that level? And is this something I want to do? Because it requires investment from you as a person. And
Right.
so that would be kind of the first step, is kind of doing that realization. And then, once you're ready to say, hey, I think I need a partner, or I've got this new opportunity or new product or new service, that's where you say, all right, can I do this by myself? Or, how big is that opportunity? Is that where I go out and then bring on, a capital partner, or, somebody else to kind of help, solve that problem and capitalize on that growth?
Okay. So first you have to have the realization of like, what do you actually want, right?
Yes.
And you've got to figure out who you are, what you're capable of, and where you want this to go. Do you want the lifestyle that's required to get a company to 200 million by you leading the charge from 0 to 200? That's a lifelong endeavor that is full of obstacles, ups and downs, and an evolution of who you are as a person, even and your
Correct.
lifestyle. So you have to come to that realization. Then you have to define the opportunity that you're actually going after. So let's say that we're home service business. We're trying to get to, we'll say 20 million, and then we're going to exit to private equity. We've defined our opportunity. What are they actually looking for in a company that size? What are the things that are going to help me be valuable to that kind of buyer?
No, that's a great question. And kind of, over the last couple of weeks, I've attended several kind of conferences. I was out at the Service Titan Pantheon event,
Oh,
and just
nice.
talking to contractors, across the country. And that's, those are the goals, right? And so,
Yeah.
what does that look like? And I will tell you, kind of, starting backwards from a buyer perspective, whether you're a potential platform or an add-on, the buyer of the business is, here's what getting back to the banking term, they're trading dollars for assets, right? And the least amount of work that you have to put in the assets after you buy them, the quicker
Better.
they can generate a return. And so, that's kind of there's been a shift in the last couple of years, when we kind of started earlier on in the podcast saying about, how there was kind of like a land grab, and anything with like an EBITDA was acquired. And there was a lot of, market people in the market kind of making and driving up those multiples. Well, now what you see is these platforms have all, gotten smarter. They've integrated. They're all on, running a certain, Service Titan as the software platform. And so along with all these different add-ins, so now instead of just talking about like what software are you running as a company, they're saying, all right, well, what's your tech stack look like? Are you using some AI tools and, all these sort of things? And so that's what the buyers now, in order to kind of get that fully, full value of a multiple or of your business. I mean, they want to say, they have a specific kind of check the boxes. They go down through operations, finance, sales, marketing, the business model, the tech stack, recruiting, training. All of those things kind of factor into quote unquote that multiple and that valuation. Not just EBITDA.
Yeah. So what I hear you saying is, as a contractor, you not only need to be thinking about how much money you're generating, EBITDA, what your revenue is, and what your team is, but you also need to be thinking about the structure of how you get things done, not just with software, but even with something like EOS, like implementing cadences where, hey, we are doing level 10 meetings, or we have a VTO that we do, and scorecards, or okay. So just the more structure you can get, and really that's just, you're trying to replace yourself in some of those cases where if you were to leave, can they run it without you?
100%. Well, that's part of it, but then also too, like, can those people, that you've trained and put underneath you, can they run it as well and or better than what you have done? And like we've seen, in many cases where putting in EOS and being on EOS, I mean, people recognize that as a value driver. So that will create, a higher value at exit. Being on Service Titan and being integrated, across the board, that does drive value, because now you're trading like expertise to the buyer that they're picking up, that they may not have tried that on their own, but they're seeing how well this little business is doing that we acquired. And now they're going to scale it across their whole platform and drive value, for their investment. So those are the things that these buyers are looking for now, versus just kind of stacking EBITDA is kind of the term that we've heard.
Thanks for checking out a clip from the Cashflow Contractor. We have full episodes where we go deep on topics that help you grow a construction business that runs without you, so you can have less stress, more time, more money. Now, we've got other videos, other clips, but if you want to check out the full episode for this clip, you can click wherever our editor put it. It might be here, might be there, might be over my face, I don't know. But thank you for checking us out. We'd love to have you as a part of our audience. So subscribe or check out a full episode wherever you get podcasts.